First of all, thank you for being here and spending a few minutes with me today. I know there are countless videos competing for your attention, and chances are something about the title or thumbnail sparked your curiosity. But I encourage you to stay with me until the very end, because what we're about to explore has the potential to completely change the way you view women, attraction, and emotional connection. In fact, within the next few moments, you may begin to see love through an entirely different lens. Some of what I'm about to say might challenge ideas you've believed for years. It may even feel uncomfortable at first, but if you keep an open mind and listen carefully, you'll discover insights that many people never learn. Let me start with a simple question. What if much of the popular advice you've heard about romance is missing the bigger picture? Everywhere we look, we're presented with the same familiar messages. We're told that women are primarily attracted to good looks, financial success, social status, or a perfect personality. The message is often the same: achieve enough external success, check enough boxes, and you'll automatically become irresistible. But real human connection doesn't work that way. The truth is far more fascinating and far more meaningful. The deepest forms of attraction are rarely built on surface-level qualities alone. Now, don't misunderstand me. Appearance, confidence, and success can certainly influence first impressions, but they are not the true reasons someone develops a deep emotional attachment. What creates lasting attraction operates on a much deeper level. It reaches beyond appearances, beyond money, beyond status, beyond even personality traits on their own. At first, that idea may sound surprising, but stay with me, because once you understand what truly drives emotional connection, many experiences that previously seemed confusing will suddenly begin to make sense. This isn't about becoming cynical or manipulative. It's about understanding how human emotions actually function. Most people spend years trying to solve relationships like a complicated puzzle. They follow advice from friends, social media, and self-proclaimed experts. They repeat the same behaviors over and over, hoping for different results. Then they wonder why they continue feeling frustrated. They watch other people build meaningful connections while they struggle to understand what they're missing. And because they don't understand the emotional dynamics beneath the surface, they often assume the problem is something external. But what if the missing piece isn't what you've been told? What if attraction is less about what you have and more about what someone experiences when they're around you? By the end of this conversation, you'll have a much clearer understanding of that idea. You'll begin to recognize why some people leave lasting impressions while others are quickly forgotten. You'll understand why certain connections grow stronger over time while others fade away. And most importantly, you'll learn what creates emotional impact, the kind that stays with someone long after the conversation ends. Before we continue, I'd like to share something with you. I've put together a free digital guide designed to help men better understand emotional connection and attraction. Inside, you'll find practical insights about becoming the kind of man people naturally respect, value, and enjoy being around. The kind of man whose presence feels meaningful. The kind of man who leaves a positive impression. And the kind of man others genuinely want in their lives. You'll find the guide linked below, completely free. No hidden offers, no tricks. Just useful information that may help you better understand the topics we're discussing today. And if you find value in this conversation, I'd greatly appreciate your support as we work toward reaching 10,000 subscribers. Every subscription helps us continue creating thoughtful content for people who want a deeper understanding of relationships, attraction, and human psychology. Now, let's begin. To understand attraction, we first need to recognize a simple truth that many people overlook. People rarely form deep attachments based solely on who someone is on paper. More often, they become attached to the emotional experience that person creates. And that single idea changes everything. And understanding that idea may be one of the most valuable insights you'll ever gain. Because lasting attraction isn't built primarily on material things. It isn't determined by the size of your paycheck, the brand of clothes you wear, or the title printed on your business card. It isn't created by your car, your house, or the collection of accomplishments you've accumulated over the years. Those things may attract attention, but they rarely create deep emotional attachment. For many women, love isn't a carefully calculated equation built on logic alone. It isn't something assembled piece by piece like a machine following a detailed blueprint. Instead, love feels much more like an experience. It's emotional, it's unpredictable, it's powerful. It's that rare feeling that makes ordinary life seem brighter than it did before. You can be the most accomplished man in the room, but if your presence creates no emotional reaction, if she feels no excitement, no warmth, no emotional connection when she's around you, your achievements alone won't be enough to hold her attention. A single authentic moment can carry more influence than an entire list of accomplishments. Researchers who study human behavior often discuss the importance of emotional association. People remember how experiences made them feel. That's why two men can meet the same woman on the exact same day and leave completely different impressions. One man may do everything correctly. He gives compliments, he agrees with everything she says, he says what he believes she's expecting to hear. On paper, he appears to be an excellent option, yet the interaction feels flat, predictable, forgettable. Then another man enters the conversation. He isn't rude or arrogant, but he's comfortable expressing his own opinions. He playfully challenges ideas. He makes her laugh. He creates moments she didn't expect. Suddenly, the conversation feels alive. Now ask yourself a simple question. When she lies awake later that evening thinking about her day, which conversation is more likely to return to her mind? The answer is usually obvious, and sometimes that reality feels frustrating. A man may possess all the qualities that seem ideal on paper. He may be dependable, responsible, loyal, and financially secure. Yet emotional attraction doesn't always follow logic. The heart is often drawn toward experiences that create energy, excitement, and emotional movement. People naturally gravitate toward those who make life feel more vivid, toward those who make ordinary moments memorable, toward those who create feelings that linger long after the interaction ends. This is where many genuinely good men become confused. They attempt to convince someone they are the right choice through logic. They present evidence. They explain why they would make a great partner. They list qualities and achievements as though attraction can be won through a persuasive presentation. But lasting attraction rarely works that way. The people who remain in someone's thoughts are often the ones who created a memorable emotional experience. They bring comfort without becoming boring. They bring excitement without becoming chaotic. They create a balance of familiarity and mystery. Being around them feels enjoyable, engaging, and emotionally rewarding. And that feeling becomes something people want to experience again. Have you ever noticed how some women return to relationships they previously claimed were over? Sometimes friends and family strongly advise against it. Sometimes logic says moving on would be easier, yet they return anyway. Often, the explanation isn't found in practical reasons. It's found in emotional memory. That person made them feel deeply understood. They made them feel important. They made them feel alive. And those emotional experiences can be incredibly difficult to forget. Now let's discuss something that surprises many people. Sometimes the harder you pursue someone, the further away they move. It sounds backward, but it happens all the time. Think about the moments when you've sent a message and then spent hours staring at your phone waiting for a response. You've checked repeatedly. You've wondered why she hasn't replied. You've analyzed every detail of the interaction. Maybe you've even started imagining worst-case scenarios. Most people have experienced that feeling at some point. The problem is that excessive pursuit often creates unintended pressure. When a man becomes constantly available, constantly texting, and constantly seeking reassurance, something important begins to disappear: anticipation. One of the most exciting parts of attraction is the space between interactions. The wondering, the curiosity, the excitement of not knowing exactly what comes next. Attraction often needs room to develop naturally. It requires space to breathe. Here's a difficult truth. Many men accidentally sabotage their own chances by chasing too aggressively. Human psychology tends to place greater value on things that feel meaningful, earned, or uncertain. We think more about what we might lose than what we know will always be there. We appreciate what captures our attention and imagination. When someone becomes completely predictable, the mind no longer has a reason to stay engaged in the same way. Curiosity fades. Anticipation fades. The emotional tension that once created excitement begins to disappear. This is why truly confident men rarely spend their time chasing. Instead, they focus on building their own lives. They continue pursuing their goals. They continue growing. They continue moving forward. And they allow attraction to develop naturally. They don't reveal every thought and emotion immediately. They don't hand over their entire life story at the first opportunity. They allow certain parts of themselves to unfold gradually, not because they're playing games, but because healthy relationships develop over time. There should always be more to learn, more to discover, more to understand. A little mystery keeps curiosity alive. It gives someone a reason to think about you when you're not around, a reason to wonder, a reason to remain emotionally engaged. Because once curiosity disappears, attention often follows. And when everything becomes completely predictable, much of the excitement disappears with it. This leads us to another important misunderstanding. Many people believe women simply want a nice guy. But what most people are actually drawn to is a person who combines kindness with strength. Someone compassionate, yet confident. Someone caring, yet capable of setting boundaries. Someone respectful, yet secure enough to stand by their own beliefs. One of the biggest mistakes many men make is confusing kindness with self-sacrifice. And unfortunately, that misunderstanding often creates unnecessary challenges in relationships. Kindness is an admirable quality. In fact, it's one of the most valuable traits a person can have. But kindness should never be confused with weakness. Unfortunately, many men make that mistake. They believe being a good partner means agreeing with everything a woman says. They think it means avoiding disagreement at all costs, suppressing their own opinions, and constantly putting someone else's needs ahead of their own. Over time, they lose themselves in the process. But think about it for a moment. Would you genuinely respect someone who never stood for anything? Would you trust a leader who abandoned their beliefs the moment they faced pressure? Would you admire someone who had no clear identity, no standards, and no confidence in their own judgment? Probably not, and neither do most women. The type of strength that creates attraction has very little to do with physical power. Yes, taking care of yourself matters. Yes, confidence in your appearance helps. But the strength that leaves the deepest impression comes from character. It comes from emotional stability. It comes from self-respect. It comes from remaining composed when life becomes difficult. A strong man isn't someone who never struggles. A strong man is someone who doesn't lose himself when challenges appear. He's able to face uncertainty without panic. He's able to experience disappointment without falling apart. He's able to stand on his own feet without constantly needing approval from others. Most importantly, he understands that his value doesn't depend on whether someone chooses him. He knows who he is. And because he knows who he is, he doesn't compromise his principles simply to keep someone interested. This is one reason calm, grounded men are often so attractive. They bring a sense of stability into situations where everyone else is reacting emotionally. They don't become consumed by every small problem. They don't allow drama to control their decisions. They remain centered even when circumstances become difficult, not because they don't care, but because they understand that emotional control is a form of strength. At some point, every relationship presents moments that reveal character. There will be disagreements. There will be misunderstandings. There will be moments where emotions run high. And during those moments, people naturally pay attention to how you respond. A man who instantly collapses under pressure creates uncertainty. A man who becomes defensive, needy, or emotionally reactive often weakens the trust that attraction depends upon. But a man who remains calm, respectful, and confident in his values communicates something powerful. He shows that his confidence is real. He demonstrates that he can handle challenges without losing himself. That kind of steadiness creates security, and security is deeply attractive. A woman doesn't need someone who agrees with every opinion she has, nor does she need someone who constantly tells her what she wants to hear. What many women truly appreciate is a man who can remain strong without becoming controlling. A man who can listen without surrendering his identity. A man who can support her without trying to dominate her. Someone who serves as a source of stability rather than another source of confusion. Now let's explore another fascinating aspect of attraction. Much of romance is influenced not only by reality, but by perception. This idea surprises many people, yet it shapes relationships every single day. Most people assume they're being loved solely for who they are, but in reality, attraction is often influenced by the meaning another person attaches to them. Psychologists sometimes describe this as projection. Human beings naturally fill in gaps with their own imagination. We interpret people through the lens of our experiences, beliefs, hopes, fears, and desires. In many ways, we don't immediately see others as they truly are. We see our own interpretations of them. When a woman first becomes interested in a man, she isn't seeing every detail of his personality. She's seeing possibilities. She's imagining who he might be. She's connecting him to her own dreams, expectations, and emotional needs. Part of attraction comes from the story forming inside her mind. That story becomes incredibly powerful, and that's why emotions can change even when the person hasn't changed much at all. If she begins seeing him as confident, independent, and exciting, her feelings often grow stronger. If she begins seeing him as insecure, overly dependent, or predictable, her emotions may begin shifting in the opposite direction. The person may remain exactly the same. What changes is the narrative, and human emotions respond strongly to narratives. The heart rarely evaluates people like a checklist. It responds to meaning. It responds to perception. It responds to the emotional story being created. Many men unknowingly leave that entire process to chance. They never think about how they're presenting themselves. They simply hope attraction develops on its own. Sometimes it does, but the people who build the strongest connections understand something important. The way others experience you matters. That doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means continuing to grow into the best version of yourself. It means maintaining your own ambitions. It means having a life that remains meaningful beyond any single relationship. One of the easiest ways to lose attraction is becoming completely predictable. When every thought is revealed immediately, when every moment revolves around one person, when there is nothing left to discover, curiosity begins to disappear. And curiosity is one of the engines that keeps attraction alive. People enjoy learning new things about someone. They enjoy uncovering layers. They enjoy realizing there's more depth beneath the surface. That's why balance is so important. Create meaningful connection. Be present. Be attentive. But also continue living your own life. Pursue your goals. Develop your interests, invest in your growth, have experiences that don't revolve entirely around the relationship. When someone sees that your life has purpose beyond them, it often increases respect and attraction. It reminds them that you are a complete person, not someone waiting for attention. If your entire world revolves around one person, eventually your presence becomes familiar to the point of being overlooked. Like a picture hanging on the wall every day, it remains visible, but people stop noticing it. The individuals who leave lasting impressions are usually those who maintain both connection and individuality. They care deeply, but they never lose themselves. And that balance is what keeps attraction, respect, and curiosity alive over the long term. When your entire focus revolves around one person, something unexpected happens. You gradually become part of the background. Your presence becomes so predictable that it no longer captures attention in the same way. But when your time is limited because you're investing it in meaningful goals, responsibilities, and personal growth, your attention carries greater value. People naturally appreciate what feels valuable. When a woman sees that your life has direction beyond the relationship, she becomes more curious about you. Purpose is attractive. Ambition is attractive. Having a meaningful life outside of romance is attractive. Women rarely stay with someone simply because he appears perfect on paper. They stay with someone who makes life feel richer, someone who sparks emotion, someone who inspires curiosity, someone who contributes positively to the story they're creating about their future. The way a person sees you shapes how they feel about you. And while you can't control another person's emotions, you can influence the experience they have when they're around you. Now we arrive at the most important lesson of all. Beyond attraction, beyond chemistry, beyond excitement and mystery, there is one element that determines whether love lasts: emotional safety. And this is where many people misunderstand relationships. When we talk about safety, most people immediately think about physical protection. Of course, that matters. But emotional safety is often even more important when it comes to building lasting love. A woman wants to feel that she can be herself around you without fear. She wants to know that difficult moments won't automatically push you away. She wants to trust that the relationship can survive challenges, misunderstandings, and imperfect days. At its core, emotional safety is the feeling that everything will be okay even when life becomes complicated. Human emotions are constantly changing. Some days people feel confident and connected. Other days they feel uncertain, overwhelmed, or emotionally exhausted. That's part of being human. Many women experience these emotional shifts deeply. One day they may feel especially close and affectionate. Another day they may need space to process their thoughts. That doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong. It often means they're navigating the natural ups and downs of their emotional world. This is where consistency becomes incredibly valuable. Being a steady man doesn't mean being cold. It doesn't mean hiding your emotions, and it certainly doesn't mean becoming distant. True steadiness means being reliable. It means showing up with the same integrity regardless of circumstances. It means remaining grounded when emotions are running high. A woman feels secure when she knows your character doesn't change every time life becomes difficult. She feels safe when you don't react harshly because she's having a bad day. She feels safe when she knows your respect isn't dependent on her being cheerful all the time. She feels safe when your commitment isn't constantly hanging by a thread. Throughout history, the people who inspired the deepest trust were often those who possessed inner stability. Not because they were perfect, but because they were dependable. They had a center that remained intact during difficult times. That quality creates a powerful sense of security. And security is one of the strongest foundations of lasting love. When a woman is struggling emotionally and you remain calm, compassionate, and present, you become someone she can rely on. You become a source of comfort rather than another source of stress. Many men unintentionally make mistakes during these moments. Some immediately try to solve every problem. While their intentions are good, it can sometimes make her feel unheard. She may feel as though you're trying to eliminate the emotion instead of understanding it. Others react emotionally themselves. They become frustrated, defensive, or overwhelmed, and suddenly she feels responsible for managing their emotions too. Neither response creates safety. Often, the most powerful thing you can do is simply remain present. Listen, stay calm, stay grounded, stay respectful. You don't have to tolerate disrespect or unhealthy behavior. Healthy boundaries still matter, but you can maintain those boundaries without becoming reactive. You can remain strong without becoming harsh. You can remain confident without becoming controlling. When a woman realizes that you're someone she can trust during both good days and difficult ones, something important begins to happen. The relationship moves beyond attraction. It moves beyond excitement. It becomes a source of stability. She begins seeing you as someone real, someone dependable, someone whose presence improves her life rather than complicates it. And that kind of connection is incredibly difficult to replace. The relationships that endure are often built on this foundation. Not just passion, not just chemistry, but trust, consistency, understanding, and emotional security. The women who stay for the long term are often the ones who found someone who made them feel understood without judgment, supported without control, and valued without conditions. Someone whose presence remained steady regardless of what life brought their way. If this conversation has given you a new perspective, I'd appreciate your support. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and join us for future discussions about relationships, psychology, and personal growth. As we continue working toward 10,000 subscribers, every bit of support helps us reach more people who are looking for deeper insights into human connection. Until next time, focus on becoming stronger, more grounded, and more confident in who you are. The right relationships are rarely forced. They are built through authenticity, consistency, and genuine connection. And remember, the strongest attraction often comes from becoming the best version of yourself, not from chasing someone else's approval.